Hello, and welcome to the Pro Series Conversations from CheckBox Pro. My name is Missy, and I'm the founder of CheckBox Pro, where we help school leaders become their most efficient and effective selves by matching them with ed-focused executive assistants. Each member of our team has over 10 years of experience in the education sphere, and though we may consider ourselves pros in some areas, we can't be an expert in every area. This is why we are excited to bring folks working in the education space to offer tools, tips, and insights to make the life of a school leader even more sustainable. Today, I'm chatting with ShaVanety Jones. ShaVanety is an early career school psychologist with a passion for helping students unlock their full potential. With a background in psychology and theater, she brings energy, creativity, and heart to everything she does. Whether she's coaching executive functioning skills, guiding social emotional growth, or using storytelling to make learning fun and engaging. ShaVanety holds a specialist degree in school psychology, is a nationally certified school psychologist or an NCSP, and is certified in executive functioning coaching and the Peers Social Skills Program. Her approach centers on building confidence, encouraging curiosity, and ensuring every learner feels seen and empowered. Hi, ShaVanety.
Hi.
Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
This is so fun. If people are not, obviously we're in people's ears, not necessarily in front of their faces, but guys, her shirt is perfectly coordinated with her background. It's kind of bringing me a lot of joy because it's also in that gold yellow family, which is my main jam. It's like the color I try to like weave in as my pop in my house. I've not mastered it as well as you have in this moment. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we've just wrapped up Mental Health Awareness Month in May. So this conversation still feels super timely, but in a very different space and lens from just your traditional, like I've had some social emotional folks in the past. But I'm excited to hear kind of from you today about like school psychology and like how that also, marries the academics piece with obviously the social emotional piece as well. But I gave our listeners a very high level introduction, kind of what I like to call like my LinkedIn intro. So just
Nice.
Before we fully jump in, I would just love for you to introduce yourself to our listeners, telling them a little bit more about your background, how and why you found yourself in the role of a school psychologist.
Thank you so much for the introduction. So I am from Shreveport, Louisiana, and I recently moved to Washington State in the heat of COVID-19. So July 2020, it was rampant. Came to Washington to start my internship. And I got into school psychology because I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I really liked learning about the law, and I really loved serving others. And it was a undergraduate professor that said, "Hey, have you heard about school psychology?" And I was like, "No, what is that?" And he told me that it was a profession where I could work with the law, work with children, and also basically use my voice to advocate for others. So that was completely up my alley. So I chose to apply for the program instead of going to graduate school for law. And I love it so far.
Oh my goodness. Wow. And I feel like that's how I ended up being in teaching, was because I thought I wanted to be a nurse. And then somebody told me about, well, have you heard of like guidance counselor? I don't know. And it just was like, oh, I guess I'm going to just change everything about my career plans now.
Exactly.
I thought I knew a thing or two, but I don't. So awesome. Okay. Well, I guess maybe just first for our listeners / for me, like we heard the term like a school counselor all the time. Like I've heard that term. You might have heard like a therapy, like therapists coming in and stuff. But you are a school psychologist. So tell us a little bit to define for us, what is a school psychologist?
Yeah, so school psychologists are trained in 10 different domains of practice. It's a specialized degree that takes about 3 years in training. There are some degrees where you can do 2 years, and then also there are doctorate degrees as well. But what I hold is a specialist degree, which is it's a 3-year degree in between a master's, not quite a doctorate, but it's that in between. We are highly skilled in academic assessments, cognitive assessments like IQ test, mental health needs, crisis intervention, database decision making, equity and diversity, family school collaboration. There's a myriad of skills that we have and that we hold that really make us change agents in the schools.
Okay. So, in comparison to, again, like I said, we've heard of a school counselor, or maybe we've heard of like a social worker. That was the other term I could not figure out.
Okay.
I've worked in schools that have like a social worker on staff. Are schools finding themselves like needing to hire all three of those different roles? Are school psychologists able to fill the role of all three? And tell me how maybe those interrelate, and if there is any sort of thread of interrelation between those three roles.
Yes, that's an excellent question. So, school psychologists are mostly doing special education evaluations. So, many people have heard of IEPs.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of the people who help to get students those services to where they would need an IEP. So, we often work with teachers to help them learn how to teach students better in the way that they learn. And we also work with schools to help have more equitable systems for them to identify students who may need special education. And then I may also be doing one-off counseling. Randomly, a student may come in and need me, and I'll drop what I'm doing and see what they need in that moment. And we also work with kiddos from preschool all the way up until college age.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you can follow them through. Yeah, because do
Mm-hmm.
students still, sometimes students go into college still with an IEP, correct? Or maybe a 504. Is that still active when they're in college? Or can it be?
Yeah, so typically when they transition into college, it turns into a 504 accommodation plan. But
Okay.
there are instances where a IEP would still be used, and that's if they go into like community-based transition services, which are still connected to their public school that they're enrolled in. Day in the life, I'd probably wake up around 7:30 a.m., get to work around 7:45, 8 a.m. I may be checking my emails, or I may have a meeting with my team. After that, I may have to call a few parents to follow up on some things, do some scheduling, because I don't think many people know this, but outside of us doing counseling and testing, we're also juggling schedules, legal timelines, documentation. We're kind of like a high level secretary, or like I'm using the word like a project manager, but for
Yeah.
students.
Yeah.
So after I've done my organization for the day, I would probably want to go see a student. So I would look at my caseload, check to see the attendance, to see if the student was there. I'd go to their classroom, I'd bring them back to my room, and we'd probably do a little icebreaker, and then we get into testing, which would be cognitive testing, which to them it looks like brain games. And
Okay.
then we may get into some academic testing, which looks at what is their ceiling for their academic performance in reading, writing, and math. And by the time that I was done with that, it'd probably be time for lunch. I'd probably have a couple of students come into my office wanting to play chess or needing help with homework. And then after that, I'd probably check emails, send out some meeting invitations, have another staff meeting, and probably go back to organizing some things again. And then it'd be close to the end of the school day. I'd go into the hallways and say bye to the kiddos, and I'd come back to my office for a special education meeting, evaluation with a parent, and we'd have that. And that would be a day for me, a
Oh
typical
my
day for
God.
me.
How many students are you generally like is on a caseload for you? Like how many?
Ooh, good question. At one of my schools, we have about 600 students. So really any of those kids could be on my caseload at any time. But
Okay.
when you go into the school year, there are a set number of students who are identified as having a special education disability. So that's how we look at it.
Okay. Okay.
So one school psych to about 600.
Oh my gosh. But like, how, oof, okay. That's,
It can get crazy.
it can get crazy.
Yeah.
And like, you can't play with your compliance. Like, I remember hearing folks, it's like, I gotta get all those red flags to be green or checked off or whatever it was. I was like, yeah, you do.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So,
Yeah.
um, love that. Anything else? School
I'm trying to
psychologist.
think. And just for comparison's sake, at my other school, there's about 1,600 students and there's 2 school psychologists. So the other school psychologist was doing about 1,000. I was doing about 600. But next year we will have 3 school psychologists to help us at
Okay.
that school.
I was about to say that's unwieldy to be able to do all that.
And I want to say too, it's not, you won't always have to work with that many students. It's just you have the possibility that, you could get 6 referrals in 1 week. It is possible.
And then each of them are on their own timeline. And
And each student is very different. Each family is very different. So you can't approach anything in a linear way.
no, there's no cut and paste cookie
No,
cutter
not at all.
approach. No. Yeah, for the template girl, i.e. me, that would be so hard. I'd be like,
Yes.
wait, I'm so sorry, you're deviating from my template. Like, I don't know how to function right now. Well,
Yes.
that's
I
awesome.
guess if I were to speak to future school psychologists, because it is a
Yeah.
great profession, one of the things that I did not learn in graduate school was how organized you have to be. I'm highly organized already, so it wasn't much of a shift for me. But you have to also be organized and plan for things to never go your way. So no matter what you set for the day on your schedule, 9 times out of 10, it won't happen. Anyone could
Yeah.
come into your room with a crisis.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine too, like those, and you have folks who are coming into the profession because they're super empathetic, very like high in the EQ piece, right? And having to probably themselves figure out the executive functioning skills to be able to bridge any sort of gaps for themselves in that space. So,
Right. You have to
um,
find balance for what works best for you, and you have to have great boundaries. So if you know you like to talk to people, you may need a sign that says, "Hey, I really want to talk to you, but I'm writing reports. Please email me instead."
this is more
Yes.
of a personal question, but where have you found yourself gravitating more to? Like, what's been like the funnest aspect of your job that you've enjoyed the most?
I love working with families. So I love being able to be the one to answer those questions that they have, because the special education, or I guess you could say, sector of education can be very convoluted and very scary if you've never had any interaction with it before. So I like debunking myths and giving them resources and education. And it's nice to just see them come together and be a part of the school culture.
Um, um, Remind me again, generally, so when you're thinking about the players in those kinds of conversations, I'm thinking for like
Mm-hmm.
that first time parent who's like, oh, I'm exploring and going down this road for the first time. Like, who are all the players in those rooms kind of making those decisions outside of course, the student, the parent, and then now I know like a school psychologist. Who are the other people kind of playing a part in kind of forming that for these students?
Yes, great question. So, oftentimes when there's an initial evaluation for a special education evaluation, I think I said it double time.
Sorry.
However, when that happens, it's a team of qualified professionals coming together. So there may be a speech language pathologist in the room, an occupational therapist in the room, a school nurse may be in the room, audiologist, school principal, trying to think of everyone, school counselor, maybe a mental health therapist may be present. And then always on the team is a general education teacher because they can speak to what's happening in the general education classroom. So that's typically who's in the room. And it can be very daunting if a parent is coming into a room with 8 people they don't
Yeah. And
know.
experts like
Right.
who really know this stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So communication is very important to be with them every step of the way throughout the evaluation process, which it takes a long time from referral to an IEP.
Oh, okay. Can you give me a rough estimate? I know it's an average and, student dependent, but
Yeah.
roughly.
On average, it could take about 90 days for the full process, sometimes longer.
Wow. That's
Depends on which state you're in.
okay. Okay, so you're in Washington State. Do you share services around to the district? Maybe talk to us a little bit about the age ranges that you work with and support right now in your current role.
Yeah. So I'm employed by the school district. So the administration building deploys school psychologists out to different schools. And I'm currently housed at 2 high schools. And
Okay.
yes.
I've never worked with that grade, but I had middle schoolers. And, the whole point we were trying to get them ready and functioning inside school. Like, of course, I latched on to your bio where it was talking about executive functioning skills
Mhm.
because that is my love language, right? I need you to have these executive functioning skills. And we would just watch some of our students and they were brilliant, such just really, really smart kids who could not figure out how to stay organized or to
Mhm.
couldn't figure out how to study, couldn't figure out how to do those yeah, those softer skills. And
Yes.
I tried so hard but not trained, not a trained professional, just OCD myself. And so I
Right.
would try to do that. So maybe, I think this might be kind of a natural way. You've recently started your own business, which I
Hmm.
want to hear about and I want you to tell people about. So yeah, I mean, just tell us what's your business? Why did you start it? What's the future of it look like? Tell us everything
I'll
about what's
tell
going
you
on next.
everything. You're
Okay.
so funny. So I started a business recently in December of 2024, and it's called Academic Fusion LLC. And I created it because I started to see what students were lacking in the schools and what they really needed at the high school level. And then I thought, well, what if I was more preventative and could get them before they went to high school? So, academic fusion looks at social skills, executive functioning skills with a little razzle dazzle of theater to help get the jitters out of the way. And recently, I've started looking at gifted students because, like you were saying, they're really, really smart, but they just can't figure out how to manage anything. And that often leads to behavioral issues. So, that's my target audience, gifted students. And I'm currently in the research phase with that, trying to get more data from, not just my area, but other areas as well to make sure that's the area I want to pinpoint.
Very cool. Yes, I have just, wish you were around way back when. Um, Okay, so in your mind, what does this look like for students? I mean, again, I know you're in the early stages and you're still in the exploratory stage, but maybe based on some experiences that you've had with the high schoolers so far, what could potentially this look like and a support for families and students?
Yeah, so I'll just give you an example of something that I've done with students that's been powerful.
Yeah.
We're a little bit older than the kiddos now. So there's certain things that we've done when we were younger that they don't do. And one of those things is writing thank you cards.
Yeah.
So I did a lesson with a couple of kiddos on how to write a thank you card. What goes into that? How are you thoughtful? So I'd tell them, are there any inside jokes that you shared with this person? Have they told you any interesting stories? What did they bring to your life that you want to tell them thank you for? So I've been using strategies like that, things that it comes natural to us adults, but it doesn't to the children. I mean, even licking the envelope, they didn't know inherently to do that. So it's really teaching them through this process that's dying in our society because of the social media and the digitalness of the world now.
So I love this. I actually just finished a book called The Correspondent, written by Virginia Evans,
Oh,
which
nice.
she like exclusively like it's a novel, but it just she moved straight into like being almost exclusively written word instead of phone calls and whatnot.
Mm,
And I like immediately was like, oh my gosh, I need a pen pal. Right. Like I was like, this is crazy. And I was like, and I too am guilty of not writing thank you cards. And so again, I have two little girls. And so we're like, okay, we're going to pick a friend or we're going to pick a cousin that doesn't live in the state. Right. And we're going to be pen pals
mhm.
now. Like we need to practice that. And so it's interesting that that's the example you use, but I'm also interested, like, why would having that skill be relevant and important and is once they get that kind of skill down, how is that translating, like how is that aiding them again? I mean,
Yes. That's an
tell me why that's
amazing
helpful.
question. So, the reason why we ended up doing this activity is because I noticed a high level of disengagement in our social group. And then a lot of them were in 12th grade and they were learning about mentors and mentorship and how to secure one, how to keep one. And I was like, I feel like we need to start talking about how to tell people thank you.
Mm,
And that's kind of how I segued into that because I told them I feel like, the one thing, if you take nothing else away from me, the power of a thank you is huge and it will get
oh,
you into rooms that you didn't even think were possible. People will say your name when you aren't present
mm. I love
solely because
that.
they remember who you are.
Yeah, yeah, love that. Okay. And then you bring in theater,
Hmm.
which I'm married to a former theater guy.
Lovely.
We joke all the time because he's very loud. And he's like, he can't not use his theater voice. It's like, it just don't even hear it anymore. Um, and we're putting our girls into theater camp because we
Great.
just feel like this is great. But tell me, like, again, I mean, I think I know the answer, but how do you weave in theater into this? Like you mentioned, like getting the jitters or the nerves or
Yes.
that out. Um, yeah, do you foresee that being used? Like, is that something that's like formally used every session, or is it if you're picking up on cues? Is there a tactic you can share with us that aren't in that space where it's like, okay, like if I'm a school teacher, or I'm a leader, and I've got this kid who's maybe feeling nervous or maybe bottling up, is there some tactic that we can use that you can share with us that we can incorporate into our relationships with kids?
Sure. There's so many hopping around in my head right now.
Okay.
But I guess to debrief about why I use theater,
Yeah.
I use theater because it gets them out of their head. So even the student that you were describing that's super smart, but they just can't figure out how to do X, Y, and Z, it
Mhm.
forces them to focus on the group, focus on what the group needs. So usually when you're paired together, let's say we're doing improv, you have to rely on your other partner in the scene with you to help you get to a common goal. So it's teaching them to trust, it's teaching them to be bold about their actions, and they're really smart. So they're also learning how to think fast and use that skill that they already have. So it's helping to tie together all of those things into one. And it may be something short like, okay, I want everyone to get together and tell me one word that reminds you of summer camp. And then everyone would go in the circle and say the first word that would come up. And oftentimes when that happens, another child has the same answer as someone else. And then they start talking about it. And now it's a
Mm.
conversation piece. So it really just opens the door to communication in a safe environment where they feel like they can express themselves and have fun.
Love that. Love that. And I'm from a person who like hates an icebreaker, but it is like at the end of it, you're like, okay, that's probably good that we did that because I like, yeah, I found one person in the room who I can bond with. Um, okay, my question for you about your business model is in your mind, is this something that you are incorporating into the school setting as no. Is it something you're trying to incorporate into the school setting, or is this something like extracurriculars that parents are opting into? And kind of like how, have parents who have tutoring on the outside, right? Like it's like, okay, we're partnering with Academic Fusion on the outside of school.
Mhm.
What's your kind of thinking and where it makes the most sense to live?
I've seen it both ways. What I'm really passionate about is after school programs because the kids are already in a mindset that they don't necessarily want to be doing school.
Mhm.
So the whole purpose of what I'm doing is to make it fun, to make learning about time management fun, to make learning how to talk to a peer fun, to make talking to a professional fun. So I like that it would be an after school program. Not that it couldn't be embedded in the school day. I just think it's more fun.
Yeah. Get a little bit more freedom there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, and then you definitely have parent buy-in because they have to agree they're signing them up and picking them up later than the
correct.
normal school day. So they're like, okay, we're invested too, which is super helpful, I'd imagine. Target ages. Like, when do you think this kind of stuff needs to be introduced to kids? Is there I mean, that's never too late, so I don't want to say that, but you're trying to catch some of these things before they're going into high
Mhm.
school. And so is it elementary school or is this more of a middle school model?
Yes, I would say it starts as early as elementary,
Okay.
especially my target is grades 4 through 8.
Okay.
But normally around third grade is when parents are like, I don't know. It seems like something's not quite going the way I planned it to, or they seem to not be listening to me when I tell them to do their chores, or, um, when we go to the store, they run off. So they're starting to notice more patterns in their kids. And also teachers are starting to see it in the classrooms more too. Around grade 3, that's when you're starting to see more patterns happening.
Interesting. I know I still have my daughter just finished first grade and loves school,
Oh,
right? They're just at
good.
that age, and I'm really grateful for the kindergarten, first grade teachers that she's had. But we have older friends, and their kids are like, I hate school. And I'm like, no, like, when does this happen? And it's interesting. Like, I think you're right. It's like third and fourth grade, all of a sudden, there's this disengagement to school that happens for some kids. And I'm like, what can we do to hold on to that, like that love, that love of school right now? I mean, she like loves
Yeah.
her spelling tests, right? She's like,
Oh,
oh,
that's so cute.
I'm like, good for you, girl. Good for you. Um, but yeah, I'm curious if maybe, yeah, there's something that's happening there and would be, yeah, I mean, so I'm glad you're
There,
taking data or you already
yes,
have data. Maybe you already have it. Why is that happening?
yes. So there's a transition in schools from, I would say in elementary school. When they first start elementary school, they're just kids are just having fun. They're able to play and just relish, and as long as they stay on their grades, it's pretty much fine.
Yeah.
But when it gets to around third, fourth grade, you have to start now thinking about middle school. So that's when stress comes up, anxiety. Um, you start to see more of their planning ability. Some of the students, they start to go to multiple classes instead of just one. So that's why all of these things are starting to bubble up around those ages
Oh my
and
gosh.
grades. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, and I know, I guess in third grade, at least here in Texas, I'm assuming it's nationwide, but like third grade is testing, like that state testing pressure
Hmm.
too, which dictates whether or not you get to go to the next grade.
Right.
But they're so little. Why are we
Yeah.
putting this
So
pressure?
it gets to a point to where they don't feel so little
Yeah.
anymore, and reality starts to hit, and that's when it starts happening.
Oh my goodness. That's wild. Um, okay. I love to always like be able to provide tips and tricks for folks, right? There's going to be the schools that are listening, or the school leader or the teacher that's listening who goes, my school doesn't have the budget for these kinds of programs, right? Or we
Mhm.
can't have the school psychologist that's with us, to help kind of aid in these areas. Are there any other tools or resources that leaders and teachers can use in their classrooms or with their students to kind of help um, with these executive functioning skills, or helping just students kind of bridge that gap when it comes to just academics and behavior and cognitive, just kind of bringing all three into alignment in a healthy and hopefully purposeful way?
Yeah, so one that I really like is using a preference assessment. And a preference assessment is basically, it depends on the grade level, but either a student filling it out or you doing it one on one with the student and figuring out how they best receive information. How do they like praise? Do they like praise written? Do they like praise in front of others? Do they like praise just one on one? Do they want you to send a letter home to their mom? How do they like praise? Are they just satisfied with a sticker on their hand? So doing something simple like that to where you can
Yeah.
figure out how this student best receives information from you is huge. And if you do that at the beginning of the school year, that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the year, especially when it's students that you have new students in your room and you don't know them yet.
I love that. That's a great one. I'm trying to think of my whole 1 year of teaching. We would do getting to know you, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
interests. But I think that's a really important and probably something we should do with lots of people in our lives, right? It's like, how do you want to be acknowledged? It's like the 5 love languages, which,
Yeah.
are helpful to know about the people that are in your orbit.
And it's so simple, doesn't take much time. And some kids, they just want snacks. If I do a good job, put a Laffy Taffy on my desk. They don't care.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know my 4-year-old is just really happy with a stamp coming out of gymnastics. She's like, "Got it.
Oh,
I just crushed today, mom." And
that's
I'm
so
like,
cute.
"Good on you, girl. Good on you." Um, Love that. Okay, I mean, anything else, Vanity? I know, time is precious, but
Hmm.
is there anything about your business, about the role of a school psychologist, anything that a parent, a teacher, an admin needs to hear and know? And you're like, I would be so upset if I got off this podcast and did not share that information. So, anything else for us today?
Yeah, so I guess with business, I recently created a survey, and I'm sure it'll be in the description notes. But I recently created a survey so I could get more information about gifted students and gifted programs all over the country, not just in Washington State, because my goal is to start helping schools, students, parents across the US, so virtually. Right now, I'm only working in person, but I am working on a virtual curriculum, and I just want to make sure I'm reaching the right people and I'm giving them what they want.
Yeah, yeah. This you might not even know. I mean, I know budget cuts are hitting schools across the country. Like
Hmm.
it's hard right now. I know I've heard a little bit of murmurings of people being like, my gifted and talented program was dissolved.
Cut.
Like they're not
Hmm.
cut. Yeah, like they're getting cut. So I think this is like this will be very important for families who it's like, okay, I no longer have the gifted and talented program at my school. Maybe this is a way for us to still meet that need, after school that, you know, that I haven't would have lost had I not had it. So yes, we will. All that to
Yes.
say is we will definitely put the link in our episode notes, because I think that's important information to have. So
Yeah, and this is also beyond just public education. This academic fusion would be great for private schools and homeschoolers too,
yeah,
because homeschoolers often don't get the time to socialize with other kiddos their age. And if they do, they may not be on the same cognitive level as them. So sometimes communication just doesn't work the way that they think it will. So
yeah.
talking through those things with someone who gets it could be helpful. Um,
That's a great point.
yeah.
I recently learned like it's hard for people to fight against their nature, right? To your point, like, I want to chat. And she said it so lovely. She was like, my heart says yes, but my schedule says no. Right? Like when you're
Exactly.
asked to do something or to be somewhere or whatever, it's like, my heart says yes, but my schedule just says no. And like, to your point, like, it's like, I would love to chat with you, but I have all of these things that have to get done right now. So if this is not an emergency, please
Yeah.
come back. Please.
Yeah. Or, a principal could call you like, hey, can you come and sit in this meeting for me? No, I cannot. You have to get comfortable with saying no, even when you want to be in all the spaces.
Yeah, don't we all need to work on saying no sometimes?
Agreed. It goes back into social skills.
Yeah. Yeah. And that teaching kids, right? Like no is a complete sentence. Like you do not have to justify your no. It just is a no in this moment. I love that.
Correct.
All right, ShaVanety, I have one final question for you.
Okay.
As we wrap up. It's what I ask all of my guests, and it is in the spirit of my company's name, CheckBox Pro. What is one box, big or small, personal or professional, that you hope to check off today?
Ooh, today? Like in general or just being on the podcast?
In general, your day.
In general.
Personal,
okay.
professional, big, small.
Yes, I love this. One thing that I do every single day when I work is I go for a walk, at least 15 minutes each day. So I would love to check that off. It's beautiful. Where I like to walk, I can see a view of Mount Rainier and I can see the water. Sometimes I see seals popping out. I see boats. So it's a really good time for me to be mindful and to just cool down after I've had lunch. That's also great too. But really, I just do it for mindfulness and a reset.
I love that. And I'm jealous that you're able to go in the middle of your day because here it's too hot in Texas to go for a walk. If you do not walk before 10, you are not going for a walk.
It's too humid for that.
Yeah. Well, you're Louisiana. You get it. You remember. Yeah. You remember. Yeah. It's terrible. Awesome. I love that. I hope you get your walk in. Listeners, if you want to connect with ShaVanety, you can find her on LinkedIn. I'm also going to link her Linktree, which is a new thing for me. I did not know about this, but it's really cool. So I'm going to put that in our episode notes as well. And then also the survey that she mentioned for gifted and talented students. So if you are a guardian, a teacher, a leader, somebody who's working with students in a gifted and talented program or just in your classroom, fill that out. Let her know, give her some of the data so she can figure out the right programming for students and schools and families. And like I said, I'll put all those in the episode notes for you to check them out. Other than that, ShaVanety, thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's been such a gift to work with you.
Oh, well, thanks. We appreciate it. We love learning from folks. And, I walk away now knowing a little bit more about a school psychologist. So I don't embarrass myself next time I'm talking to a social worker or a school counselor or somebody different. I will know. I will be able to say with confidence. But no, thank you so much for the work you're doing with students. It's really helpful as a former educator. The service you are providing for those kiddos and for their families is really valuable. So, and to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us today. Please check back in with us. We'll have more experts coming on. And in the meantime, everybody have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening to today's Pro Series conversation. Our team is always looking for more pros to learn from in the field of education. So if you have a recommendation for a future guest, or maybe you are the pro, then send us a note at info@checkboxpro.com. And if you want to hear from more pros, then like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so that you don't miss an episode. And by doing so, this also helps more folks find our show. So take a moment to check that box off your list today.